Greetings, my brothers and sisters.
Greetings.
Welcome. Episode 107. We're in our fourth season. Thank God for his many blessings.
Yes.
Yes. We're just grateful to come before you today on this last Saturday of February.
That's right.
Which is officially the Black History Month, even though we celebrate Black History 365.
24/7.
Yes. But this is the last Saturday, so we're going to continue to focus on life.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about African American first for the last couple of weeks. And we're going to continue with life. But our part 2 on African American First, we had a number of categories from business to politics to sports and everything in between. But in part 2, we had a business category where we talked about the Savings Bank of Grand Fountain United Order of True Reformers in Richmond, Virginia, which was the first bank owned by African Americans in the United States. It was founded on March the 2nd, 1888 by Reverend William Washington Brown and opened on April the 3rd, 1889 as the True Reformers Bank. We also did a category on media in part 2, and we talked about WGPR TV.
Right.
Yeah. We're talking about where God's presence radiates. Yes, it was the first television station in the United States owned and operated by African Americans. The station was located in Detroit, Michigan. We like to call it Motown City or Motor City, and was founded by Dr. William Bernard Banks, an attorney, businessman, and minister, and founder of the Fraternal Order of the International Free and Accepted Modern Masons and Order of Eastern Star in 1950. So after he purchased WGPR, where God's Presence Radiates radio station, 107.5 FM, then he founded the TV station, which operated by African Americans as well in Michigan in 1964. We also talked about in the lawyer category, the Attorney General, Letitia James. She was the first African American woman to be elected to and hold citywide office in New York City, and the first woman to be elected Attorney General, and what we like to celebrate, the first Black woman to bring charges against former 45 president. Yes. So we're going to continue in that vein today when we're going to talk about multi-talented African Americans. And our subtopic is highlighting the greatness and many talents, gifts, and innate abilities of our Black brothers and sisters.
Well, let me just say before we get to our shout outs, thank you once again for joining us. But I just want to say, we as a people, I'm referring to my people of color that looks like me. We're not lazy. We're not stagnant.
That's right.
We're not predictable. You can't box us in. And we are a people that are trendsetters. You know, we set the standard. We do things first.
That's right.
And then others have to follow. We're originators. We're creative. We're innovative. We're trailblazers.
Right.
You know, folk want to just follow behind what we do. But remember, we create, we first. And we're just unstoppable. And to be honest, we're just truly blessed by the Lord.
Yes.
We as a people, I want to say we're like the modern day Israelites. I mean, we are some blessed people.
Yes, we are.
So let's get into our shout outs before we get started, because y'all can see I'm excited about this topic. We're all multi-talented. Tap into your multi-talents. But we want to definitely give a shout out to our fellow podcasters here on BS3 Network. There are so many of us that are bringing you a variety of content for your viewing and listening pleasure. And we have a fearless and tireless leader that works from sun up to sundown. That's our son, and he got it honest. But sometimes son got to slow down a little bit. But he is a visionary, that really puts the energy behind this network. And so we are operating as he leads us in the spirit of excellence. So we just thank God for BS3 Network, for this platform that he's provided for us. Ben Sudderth III is the man, Mr. Podcaster, Mr. Podfather. That offers coaching. If you are interested in becoming a part of the podcasting arena, we'd love to have you here at BS3 Network. We have a very structured program available for you to connect with. Reach out to him. His information is on your screen. And also, if you have not downloaded BS3 Network on your Roku devices, we list that as well on the screen. We invite you to check us out and share, let others know. Once you check us out, we know you're going to love it. Then you share that information with others. And if you'd like to reach out to us at Sudds-R-Us Podcast, that's our information on the screen. We'd love to hear from you as well. So without further ado, we want to just enlighten you and share with you what BS3 Network is all about in a short little video clip, and we'll be right back.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.
All right. So we're going to get started. Now, we just have actually one category. We're talking about multi-talented African Americans. And today we're going to talk about athlete/artist.
Yes.
Athlete/artist. So the first one we would like to bring to your attention is Romare Bearden. Now, Romare Bearden was born September 2nd, 1911 in Charlotte, North Carolina, my birth city, if I can just add.
The QC.
The QC, yeah. And he grew up in New York City and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He was an athlete, an artist, author, and songwriter. He worked with many types of media, including cartoons, oils, collages, and he graduated from New York University in 1935. And unfortunately, he passed away March 11, 1988. So the Bearden's family, this family is very interesting, I tell you. The Bearden's family moved with him to New York City when he was a toddler. This was a part of the Great Migration. They would call it the Great Northward Migration or the Black Migration. And basically what it was the movement of 6 million African Americans out of the rural South to urban, either Northeast, Midwest, or West, then part of the country between 1910 and 1970. So it was caused primarily by the poor economic conditions for Blacks, or what were considered colored people back then, as well as the prevalent racial segregation and discrimination in the southern states where they had Jim Crow laws that were being still upheld. In particular, the continued lynchings that we talked about in our Brian Stevenson episode on last month. So what this do? This motivated a portion of African American community to leave the South, and they searched for social reprieve, kind of like what we did when we left the South and moved to the Bay Area in California in 1982. We were after that Great Migration period, but it was still a migration for us in itself.
So this necessary
migration. Yes. So this historic change brought the migration was amplified because Black people, for the most part, moved to these larger cities in the United States, like New York City and Detroit, and Chicago, Cleveland, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C., at a time when those cities had a central culture, social, political, and economic influence over the United States, which transformed them cities into what we like to call chocolate cities.
Okay.
These African Americans established influential communities of their own, despite the loss of leaving their home and their families in the South like we did, and all the barriers that we faced in our new homes. The migration was an act of individuals and collective agencies which changed the course of American history. I'm talking about a Declaration of Independence written by our actions and not by the laws, which brings me to my first scripture, which is Luke 11:9. It says, "And I say unto you, ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be open unto you." So we stepped out on faith, like a lot of our brothers and sisters. They stepped out on faith, and God blessed us. Which brings me to my next scripture, which is Hebrews 11:1-6, where it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, and the evidence of things not seen." We didn't see where we were going. We didn't see our future. They didn't see where they were going. They didn't see their future. But verse 6 says, "But without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is the rewarder of them that diligently seek him." So after enrolling in PS 5 in 1917 on 141st Street and Edgecombe Avenue in Harlem, New York, Bearden attended PS 139, followed by DeWitt Clinton High School. In 1927, he moved to East Liberty, Pittsburgh, with his grandparents, and then returned to New York City, which is very common. We talked about that before, how a lot of the kids were living with their grandparents. It's very common because of the economic struggles that their parents face and the hardships. So the Bearden household soon became a meeting place for the major figures of the Harlem Renaissance. Now, the Harlem Renaissance was an intellectual and cultural revival of African American music, dance, art, fashion, literature, theater, politics, and scholarship centered in Harlem, Manhattan, New York City, and expanded the 1920s and the 1930s. So they met at his parents' house.
Wow.
So he was raised in this Afrocentric artistic environment. His father, Howard Bearden, was a pianist, but his mother, Romare's mother, I'll tell you, she was a bad sister.
Of course.
Bessie Bearden.
Girl power.
Bearden, she played an active role with the New York City Board of Education. She was the first woman to become a member of the local New York City School Board, being elected in 1922 to a local school board number 15, where she served until 1939, and also served as founder and president of the Colored Women's Democratic League.
Wow.
She was also a New York correspondent for the Chicago Defender, which is an African-American newspaper. Now, Calvin Tompkins, in the Jazz Candace of American Culture, he described Bessie J like this. She said, "A political force in Harlem. Someone you came to when you wanted to cut through the red tape and get action." This was his mother.
A fearless woman.
Yes. She was powerful. She was a powerful woman of God. So Bearden, he had Cherokee, Italian, and African ancestry.
Wow.
And the Washington Post describes him as the African American, just one little drop of black blood, then you black. He was African American. But Bearden's fair skin allowed him to cross boundaries that many other black people were restricted from. So as a child, he played baseball in the empty lots in his neighborhood. He enjoyed sports, throwing discus for his high school, track team, and trying out for the football team.
I love
now,
it.
After his mother became the New Yorker editor, or the New York editor of the Chicago Defender, he did some writing for the paper, including some stories about baseball. 1929, he graduated from Peabody High School in Pittsburgh. He enrolled in Lincoln University, and that was the nation's second oldest historical black college, founded in 1854. But once Bearden transferred from Lincoln University to Boston University, he became a starting fullback for the football team in 1931, 1932.
He did it all.
And then he began pitching. Now, first for the freshman team, and eventually for the school's varsity team. He was awarded a certificate of merit for his pitching at Boston University, which he hung with pride in subsequent homes throughout his life. Now, while at Boston University, he played for the Boston Tigers, a semi-professional, all-black team based in the neighborhood of Roxbury. He tended to play with them during the Boston University baseball offseason and had opportunities to play both iconic Negro League and white baseball teams. For an example, he pitched against the historic, classic, the all-knowing Hall of Fame, Satchel Paige.
Oh, wow.
While playing for the Pittsburgh Crawfords for a summer league. And he played exhibition games against teams such as the House of David and the Kansas City Monarchs. Now, when Philadelphia Athletics catcher Mickey Cochran bought a number of the teammates to play a game against Boston University, Bearden gave up only one hit. Wow. One hit, impressing the athletic owner, Connie Mack, offered Bearden a place on the Athletics 15 years before Jackie Robinson became the first black major league player. 15 years before, he was offered a position with the Athletics. Sources conflict whether Mack thought Bearden was white or told Bearden he would have to pass for white. So despite the Athletics World Series in 1929 and 1930 and the American League pennant in 1931, before they moved to Oakland from Philadelphia, just like the Warriors did, Bearden decided he did not want to hide his identity.
Not gonna deny.
Proud to be a black man.
Yes.
Yeah. So he chose not to play for the Athletics. After 2 summers with the Boston Tigers, an injury made Bearden rethink his attention he was giving to baseball. And he put greater focus into his art instead. So he was a proud black man, even though he was a light-skinned black man. He was proud. He said, "I'm black and I'm proud."
That's it.
So he served as an art director for Bean Pot, Boston University's student humor magazine. Bearden continued his studies at the New York University, where he started to focus more on his art and less on athletics, and became a lead cartoonist and art editor for The Medley, which is the monthly journal of the secretive Equilon Society. Now, the Equilon Society that was founded in 1832 was dedicated to furthering the literature of arts. Members held hour debates and proceeded for readings of essays and orientations and poems at New York University. Bearden studied art, education, science, mathematics, and he graduated with a degree in science and education in 1935.
Wow.
1935, Bearden also became a caseworker for a Harlem office in New York City Department of Social Services. And throughout his career as an artist, Bearden worked as a caseworker in order to supplement his income. As an artist, sometimes you can be a starving artist. Right. It depends on who collects and offers you certain money for your projects or for your paintings. So he had to supplement his income. So Bearden worked as a caseworker. He continued his artistic study under German artist George Quartz at the Art Students League in 1936, 1937. Now, during this period, Bearden supported himself by working as a political cartoonist for the African-American newspaper, including the Baltimore Afro-American, where he published weekly cartoons from 1935 until 1937. So he began his artistic career creating scenes of the African South. Later, he worked to express his humanity he felt was lacking in the world after he experienced in World War II while he was with the U.S. Army on the European front. And what he did when he came home from that experience, he also noticed the racial discrimination practices in America. So he returned to Paris in 1950, and he studied art, history, and philosophy at the Sorbonne. Now, Burns' early work focused on unity and cooperation within the African-American community. After a period in the 1950s, when he painted most abstractly, these themes reemerging in collage work in 1950. New York Times described Bearden as the nation's foremost colonist, collagist, however you pronounce it, collagist, I guess you pronounce it that way, in a 1988 obituary. Bearden became a founding member of Harlem-based art group known as the Spiral, which was formed to discuss the responsibilities of African-American artists in the civil rights movement. Bearden was the author and co-author of several books. He also was a songwriter, known as co-writer of the jazz classic Sea Breeze, which was recorded by Billy Epstein, a former high school classmate at Peabody High School, and, check this out, Dizzy Gillespie. He had long supported young emerging artists, and he and his wife established the Bearden's Foundation to continue this work, as well as support young scholars. In 1987, Bearden was awarded the National Medal of Arts. It was in 1954, at the age of 42, that he married Nanette Rahan, and she was 27 at the time. He was 42, she was 27. Wow. She was a dancer from Staten Island, New York, and she later became an artist and a critic. So he began exhibiting again in 1960. About this time, he and his wife established their second home on the Caribbean islands of St. Martin. Then in 1961, Bearden joined the Cordera, an Estrom gallery in New York City, which would represent him for the rest of his career. Making major changes in his art, he started producing abstract representations of what he deemed as human, specifically scenes from the Passion of Jesus. So he evolved. He evolved from the Edward Allen Jewell, a reviewer of New York Times, called a debilitating focus on regionalists and ethnic concerns. He evolved to what became known as the stylistic approach, which participated in the post-war aims of avant-garde American art. His works were exhibited at the Samuel M. Coates Gallery until it was deemed not abstract enough. Now, during Bearden's success in the gallery, however, he produced Golgotha, a painting from his series of the Passion of Jesus. Golgotha is an abstract representation of the crucifixion, which brings me to this scripture, John 19:17-18. And it says, and he bearing his cross went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him. And two were with him on either side, one, and Jesus in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and it was written was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. So this eye-opening of a viewer is drawn to the middle of the image first, and the man in the middle, where Bearden had rendered Christ's body. The body parts were stylistic or stylized into abstract geometric shapes that are still too realistic to be concretely abstract. This work has a free of early Cubanism, and the Cubist work of art is the subject of analyzing, broken up, and reassembling in an abstract form instead of depicting objects from a single perspective. The artists depict the subject from multiple perspectives to represent the subject in a greater context. The body is in a general position and darkly contrasts with the highlight of crowds and the crowds of people on the left and the right. And there encapsulated into large spears of bright colors of purple and indigo. And the background of the painting is depicted in lighter jewel tones, dissected with linear black ink. So Bearden used these colors and contrast because of the abstract influence of the time, but also for their meaning. Bearden wanted to explore the emotions and actions of the crowd that were gathered around the crucifixion. He worked hard to depict the myths in an attempt to convey universal human values and reactions. According to Bearden, Christ's life, death, and resurrection are the greatest expression of man humanism, because of the idea of him that lived out through other men. It is why Bearden focused on Christ's body first, to portray the idea, the myth, and then highlighted the crowd.
Wow.
To show how the idea is passed on to men. Which brings me to John 20:17. Jesus said unto her, touch me not, for I am not ascended to my Father, but go to your brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. See, Bearden focused on the spiritual intent. He wanted to show ideas of humanism and thought that cannot be seen by the eye, but must be digested by the mind, body, and soul. Bearden's collage work began in 1963 to 1964. He first combined the images from magazine images and from cutouts and from colored paper, which he would often use further to alter the use of by sandpaper and bleach and graphite or paint. Bearden enlarges these collages through the phostate or photostate process, building on the momentum from successful exhibits of his photostate pieces of the Cordier and Estrom Gallery in 1964. Bearden was invited to the solo exhibit at the Corrigan Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., this heightening his public profile. Bearden's collage technique changed over the years. And in later pieces, he would use blown up photographic images, silk screens, colored paper, and then billboard pieces to create large collages on canvas and fiberboards. In 1971, the Museum of Modern Art held a retrospective exhibit of Bearden's work, which traveled to the University of Art Museum in Berkeley, California, where we live when we first moved to the Bay Area. We like to call it Berkeley. Right. So I know they embrace his collages, which is kind of different. Quite different. You got to have a taste for it. Now, I love art, but this is kind of different. But right here is where we live, the city of Berkeley. They commissioned Bearden to create a mural for the city council chambers. The 16-foot wide mural, incorporating many visual aspects of the city in collage style, was installed in 1973 and received positive reviews. It was taken down and it was loaned to the National Gallery of Art. Bearden retrospective in 2003 had traveled to San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, to Dallas Museum of Art, to Whitney Museum of American Art. Following that tour, it was given back, put in storage at City Hall. Right now, where it awaits some seismic retrofitting, but the city council was meeting there, and a portion of the mural inspired the city's current logo. Romare Bearden, he died in New York City in March 12, 1988, due to complications from bone cancer. New York Times described Bearden in his obituary as one of America's preeminent artists and the nation's foremost collagists. 2 years after his death, the Romare Bearden Foundation was founded. This nonprofit organization not only served as Bearden's official estate, but also helps to preserve and perpetrate the legacy, of his preeminent American artists. Recently has begun developing grand giving programs amid funding support of children and young adults, emerging artists and scholars. In Charlotte, North Carolina, A street was named after Bearden.
Yeah, rightfully so.
Intersecting, right. Intersecting West Boulevard on the west side of the city. Romare Bearden's Drive is lined by West Boulevard Public Library and rows of townhouses near my alma mater of John C. Smith University.
Oh,
it's amazing how we lived near this iconic Black historical figure and his achievements. Inside of Charlotte Mecklenburg Main Library, 310 North Tyrant Street, is Bearden's Masonic Before Dawn. After Bearden's death, his widow selected a 12 by 18-inch collage by him to be recreated in Samalti, which is glass tile, by Corvatos Masonic in Spielberg, Italy, for the grand opening gala, June 18, 1989, of the new library. She was publicly honored at that ceremony for her contribution to reinterpretation of the work in a 9 feet tall and 13.5 feet wide. So groundbreaking. This is very interesting. I got to close with this. The groundbreaking of Romare Bearden's Park in Charlotte took place in September the 2nd, 2011, and was completed and opened in August of 2013. It is situated on a 5.2 acre parcel located in the 3rd Ward between Church and Mint Street, where the artist lived. He lived near there, near the park, for a time as a child.
Nice.
At the corner of what is now MLK Boulevard and Graham Street. The park design is based on work, public artist Irene Sudderth. Her concepts were inspired by Bearden's multimedia collages. Now, fitting, the park serves as the entryway to a minor league baseball stadium, the BB&T Charlotte Knight Baseball Park.
Oh, wow. I tell y'all, Mr. Bearden and his whole family was nothing and nobody to play with.
That's right.
Did you guys get that information? And things that really intrigued me was, the street. We go to Charlotte often. That's on my bucket list. I got to go and visualize that.
Right.
And also some of his artwork. If you guys haven't checked any of that out, some are very interesting, but the Black history pieces are very nice. I love that. But again, go ahead.
What I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention that he also, in 2005, was on a stamp, the U.S. Postal stamp. She commemorated 10 important milestones of the Civil Rights Movement. And Bearden, 1984 lithogram, The Lamp, was selected to illustrate the 1954 Brown and Board of Education Supreme Court decision. Then in 2011, the U.S. Postal Service released a set of former or forever stamps featuring 4 of Bearden's paintings during the first day issues of the commemoration. So he was also on the stamp.
I tell you, we are always on the move. This is more than, I know multi means multiple, but he, in the sense of the word, multiple talented, Black man that refused to denounce who he was. That's the most outstanding piece, I think. And interesting enough, we have another former Major League Baseball player. I should say former baseball player, but he played formerly played Major League Baseball. Now, as I mentioned, I don't know, a few episodes ago, how this is one of the least interesting sports that I know of, but I've learned a lot during this research. And this is another player, baseball player, that turned artist. But here's the twist. He likes to empower the Black kids through art. His name is Micah Drew Johnson. Born in December of 1990. Very young man. That's had quite a career in baseball. His amateur baseball career started in Indiana. He attended Park Tudor School, which was a college preparatory school in Indianapolis, Indiana. And he also played in Indiana University in Bloomington. He played college baseball for them, for the Indiana Hoosiers baseball team. Now, I know the Indiana Hoosiers, but I know them as basketball mainly, right. So interesting enough, they're a pretty good competitive team. In 2011, he played collegiate baseball, summer baseball, that is, in Massachusetts. And then as a American former professional baseball second baseman, wow, to be in the middle of the field, first or third, he right there in the middle. He played in the Major League Baseball, MLB, for the Chicago White Sox, the Los Angeles Dodgers, as well as the Atlanta Braves, which is where we are now. They're pretty good. They are a pretty good team. So interesting enough, Micah batted left and he threw right.
Wow.
Now that's called, I kept trying to figure it out, so I had to look it up. Ambidextrous.
Right.
And it's sometimes called mixed handedness.
Right.
Now that's pretty talented to be able to do both. Like I can do some things with my left, but mainly I'm a right-hander.
Okay.
So that's impressive to me. So that ability to use both hands skillfully to perform tasks. Now get this, only about, they say, 1% of people are naturally ambidextrous.
Wow.
Which equates to about 80 million people in the world today. 1%. That's impressive. If you got that gift, God bless you. Use it. Use it to the best of your ability. So as I mentioned before, the Chicago White Sox selected Micah in the 9th round of the 2012 Major League Baseball draft.
Wow.
And he started his career with the rookie level Great Falls Voyagers. Never heard of them. Probably a minor league, some, sub league. So afterwards, Micah bounces around playing baseball in the minor league baseball in, get this, Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Wow.
With the Kannapolis Intimidators. Listen to this name. And in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, with the Winston-Salem Dash. Not impressive. Come on, Dash. But anyway, and with the Charlotte Knights. Look, you had just talked about that, of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, these 3 teams are affiliated today with the Chicago White Sox. Now, that's interesting. Outside of Chicago, they got a minor league. I don't know much about baseball, so forgive me for my not knowing. But Micah earned a spot on the White Sox 2015 opening day roster, batting 9th and playing second base. And then something happens. He ends up in the same year, in December of 2015, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was traded there. So anyway, he was assigned, here we go again, to a AAA Oklahoma City Dodgers to begin the season. He appeared in 7 games in the majors with 1 hit in 6 at-bats. I don't know, that don't sound too impressive. And 120 games in Oklahoma City, where he had a 261 batting average.
It's a little
low. That's low. So I was just going to ask you that. And the Dodgers designated him for assignment on January 10th, 2017. So I guess that means traded. They get ready to set him up to be ousted. So then he ends up January 13th, 2017 with the Atlanta Braves. There he fractured his wrist while making a diving catch in a spring training game. Oh man, so he didn't even get it's a training game. So after surgery and rehabilitation, he played 11 games for the Gwinnett Braves. Now we know about Gwinnett. That's a city and a county here in Georgia, another minor league, and then was sent back to the Braves in July. And then later in his career, Micah was claimed off waivers by the Cincinnati Reds. Now, how in the world they skip something? How you get from Braves to the Reds anyway? Then he was designated for assignment a couple of days later. And then he was claimed off waivers by the Giants. And then he was designated for assignment in November. This poor thing was...
Yeah, that's the way it is in baseball.
He was all over the place. February 2018, he was outrighted to the minors by the Rays and removed from the 40-man roster. And then he played for the Durham Bulls probably during North Carolina. And
Yeah.
then an elected free agency in November the 2nd. So
Okay.
all of that, and that's in that probably a year span. So why, why all this bouncing around, would you say? Like, I don't get it. It's like you don't find the stability. You just, hopping and jumping around. I get it in basketball, and maybe that applies. You can tell me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their whole focus is to play, and sometimes certain teams has an opening or a position available, and other teams may not. So once they feel that you're not at the level, they want everybody at a certain level to perform
and to win. I guess
to win. If you're not at that level and they're able to draft or to trade for someone that's at a higher level than you, then they have to switch you or transfer you over or draft you or send you back to the minor leagues. And so but the whole focus, he wanted to play. And he was willing to accept that because that's just the way the industry is. And the other thing you mentioned about the pitching with one hand and hitting with another hand, he was probably a switch hitter too. He could probably hit with both hands, which is very when someone is able to do that, that's very important. They are well searched out for somebody that can switch hit because you like to switch. The hitters switch the opposite side of the pitchers. But yeah, he wanted to play. So a lot of times they just go with the flow and they understand how the industry works.
Yeah, very smart young man. You'll figure it out in a minute. But Micah's baseball career, it ended due to an injury to his left hamstring. So not only was his wrist injured, but his left hamstring. And so, however, this is what I'm getting to. Wise young man that started taking care of his personal life after baseball during the 2014 season. Now, what I just referenced was 2017. 3 years before that, this man was working on his after baseball personal life by taking online classes, because he knew he couldn't go into the classroom. He had to prepare for baseball through Indiana University to finish his degree. So along with his baseball career, he is also an artist. And not just your ordinary artist. And I'll explain that in a little bit as well. But he started his intention to be to go into law school because, and I believe he still has this intention, the way this man is so goal oriented. His goal is to become a Major League Baseball general manager. And I'm sure he can reach that goal. So listen, if all athletes, across the board would do some pre-thoughtful planning of that nature, if they are not already doing that, some people are just not that savvy to think beyond their current, that would make their lives so much better afterwards. Should an injury occur as this happened, or should they get released from the team, and then you just out. Trying to figure your way, So take a page out of this young man, Micah Johnson's book. So retiring from baseball after the 2018 season, Micah shifted his focus to creating artwork similar to Bearden, which was a hobby that he started only 3 years before. Look at that. So he later opened an art studio in New Hampshire where he created physical artwork on canvas. Now that's the artwork I'm familiar with. Now this brother gets into more stuff. He ventures off into the new and fast growing media of NFTs. Which are non-fungible tokens. Or tokens that each represent a unique asset, like a piece of art or digital content or media, which I guess you could say is like Apple Music, if you will. We subscribe to Apple Music, but if you want to buy that music, then you could do that. You can't physically, it's not like a CD or a cassette, but you own ownership of that song. Interesting enough. But
you need an electronic device to play it.
Exactly. But it's like it's there. It's in the cloud. So an NFT can be thought of as an irrevocable digital certificate of ownership. And authenticity for the given asset. So whether digital or physical, it is not replaced by anything or another identical item and is not mutually interchangeable.
Okay.
You know, I might buy a song, but I can't give it to him. He got to buy it for himself. Look at that money. Look at that money. So he sold multiple pieces in early 2020, selling one NFT in April for approximately $940. Now, another one comes along, you know, you sell them one at a time, I guess. So his work frequently depicts, again, Black children in an inspirational and encouraging light. And in partnership with a blockchain-based art platform, which, again, I had to figure out what is blockchain. So it's a system where transactions take place and are maintained electronically and in a digital cryptocurrency environment. Again, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. It's all digital, you know, electronic exchange. So Johnson ended up revealing a new piece called Sovereignty in October of 2020. Now, the inspiration stems from overhearing his then 4-year-old nephew asking his mother, "Can astronauts be Black?" Well, look, then he don't know about McNair and what's her name? Mae Jemison. Come on, I hope it's mama and daddy and everybody else let him know. We've been in the space, young man. You're gonna be the next one. So Micah's stated mission was to take 2 Black youths who faced adversity and then give them sovereignty, or in other words, empower them. That was his vision behind revealing Sovereignty, that piece. So his brand is entitled Aku, which is a world built around dreams. It was imperative for him, in a quote that he says, to incorporate talented artists and designers who have achieved their dreams into the world, and it's their mission to inspire everyone who walks through the door. I love that. He is the creator. Don't let nobody fool you of Aku. If you hear Aku, it's Michael Johnson. It is not anyone else. He's the creator. Now, Aku comes to life for the first time with leading crypto exchange FTX US as the official partner, listen to this, of Aku World Miami. Now, he's the creator, but he's a partner. Go figure. Now, this is always the case that a Black man or a Black woman originates and a white man confiscates.
That's it.
That's very common. Look, I'm a tweet that and Facebook it and Instagram it because it's the truth. It's evident with Aku World Miami, where Micah, he's the originator of all of this, but they grab the name, put World and Miami on it, and then they invite him to it. So it's introducing Aku, this young man that's a Black astronaut, this young child, to the physical world. I get it. He gets the exposure. He gets his name out there. I understand. I'm sure he's wise and savvy with all of this undercutting, undercovering way of gravitating toward the money. But they meaning the white people, they're cunning and they're crafty people. So be aware. If you're watching this, be aware, be on top of your game and go ahead and be your creative self. But just be aware, because they are always on a mission to take away and to take over. I forgot, they're gonna take you down first, then they're gonna take over. So this event, Aku World in Miami, brings friends and collaborations across art, music, fashion, and technology. This all comes together under this one roof and in one space. So the visually stunning, multi-layered event will showcase the dimensions of Aku, and then it'll allow guests to step out of reality into metaverse. Or that virtual reality space. And so we see a lot of this futuristic, that's what that is, where you step out of time into this make-believe world. We've seen so many movies of that, and people, some weird stuff be going on. It's like, that's where we are. Some of it I don't get. It's kind of, plays with your mind. So be careful, be alert. But anyway, it blurs. The exhibits are going to blur. This is interesting. Blur the lines between NFT technology and IRL, which is in real life experiences. So with all this, I'm going to just pause here and diverse a little bit. With all this new age exchange that's going on with cryptocurrency and FTX and Bitcoin and, and the likes, I'm telling y'all, please be careful.
That's it.
In all of my readings, I just read this FTX founder. He's been indicted 20 days ago on new criminal charges relating to all this money that's going through his hands, digitally and electronically. So be careful with all these acronyms that are going on anyway. We can't keep up with the FTX and NLTs and IRL and whatever. We got to educate ourselves and know what's going on.
Right.
So here's another quote from Micah Johnson, the creator and the conceiver of Aku. It says, Aku world is a world built around dreams. And as he said before, it's our mission to inspire everyone who walks through the door, who takes a peek into Aku world.
Wow.
So in February of 2021, Aku became the first NFT to be optioned for film and television.
Wow.
And it's also the first NFT to travel to space.
Oh, look at
so
that.
he's already gone to space. Go ahead, Aku. It's a conduit to empower the next generation.
There you go.
I like that. I really love that. And I appreciate how he's not just operating in his own vein, but he's reaching back and pulling the next generation ahead of explorers and dreamers, and to see the world through Aku's astronaut helmet.
Okay.
I love that. So
futuristic.
Yeah. So see, once we create it, they gravitate towards the potential and of course the future and the money.
Right.
So Micah is now focusing his efforts on creating change across the digital landscape and promoting his mission to empower youth of color. Thank you, because we're not the only people of color. And diligently work to make NFTs accessible to everyone. Because that's the new age, right?
The new age.
I love it. I love it. So in less than a year, Micah's artwork has amassed a passionate fan base, generating over 10 million US dollars in sales.
Wow.
Did he work that or what?
I'm telling you. Wow.
Look, baseball didn't work, but look at what he did. So Aku has proven to be a very inspiring character that a lot of people from diverse backgrounds can connect with. So in an interview that Micah had, he says, and that's special in itself because I probably will never make another character again in my life that will have the same organic impact. The first one is the one.
That's it.
So Micah Johnson said the process of developing Aku from a painting to a digital entity that exists in his own universe was almost like therapy.
All right.
He says parts of himself alongside aspirational personality traits, Aku quickly became more than just a two-dimensional character. It was very important that Aku was confident as a Black man, confident, and and Micah actually explained on forming his identity because he is a dreamer. So Micah likened Aku's steadfast nature to his own childhood. He has always wanted to pursue baseball as a career, but was met with skepticism by people who told him to consider another option. Now, you can't play baseball, go do something else. And so, when you get that opposition, then you go and make it better. You turn it around for something positive and for your good.
That's right.
And so pursuing his passion, he said, was a reminder that it's okay to be bold about what you want to accomplish. And Aku was created to embody that notion.
Wow.
I love it. So beyond inspiring confidence, Aku was created to elevate Black voices and carve out a space for creators of color in the metaverse.
Wow.
Now, there's not very many Black people in space, Michael Johnson said, and we mentioned that as well. So he's trying to bridge the gap between culture and Web 3.
There we go.
Now, I had to look that up. I know y'all looking at me kind of sideways, but it's like, that's an idea for a new version of the World Wide Web. It incorporates concepts such as decentralization, blockchain, as I mentioned before, technologies, and token-based token-based electronics and economics like NFTs. Wow. That's what Web 3 is. So it's no more this big www or the internet. Now it's Web 3. That's what we're evolving into. So this thing is ever changing, y'all. It's ever changing. So lastly, Micah notes that historically, and this is very true, many Black communities, we have lacked resources to keep us with the changing times, the changing industries, and the new technology. So I appreciate the bridging of the gap that he's doing and the fact that he's reaching out, because there's so many of our young people that are creative that may not have the money and the means to pursue something like this. And that's what it's becoming. But again, this is Micah Drew Johnson, former Major League Baseball player, now artist that is now in this Web3 metaverse, blockchain, NFT environment. That's just blowing my mind. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot through this process.
Wow. And we hope y'all enjoyed this process of learning, because we're just so amazed. We talk about the 20th century collages, where Burton came from, and now Johnson in the 21st century. Now we understand why so many elderly, I wouldn't say senior citizens, but so many citizens of our age and a little bit older, they're so skeptical and they're so hesitant to deal with social media, or even, Cash App or Zelle or these other opportunities. So you're talking about cryptocurrency, you're talking about Oko, Aku, so this is a new wave. This is a new age. This is where we're going.
And our generation may be more receptive to it. But of course, we've got to not be, fearful, but step out there and just learn about it. I'm not saying get involved. That's your decision. But yeah, we gotta stay abreast, because our grandchildren are gonna be, you don't know anything about this. No. Don't. But I want to be up on top of some of this stuff.
Exactly. So we hope you were enlightened on today.
Definitely.
And educated. We really enjoyed you, and thank you so much for joining. And we're going to close out with our scripture, which is coming from Isaiah 43:19. And it says, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." God bless you, and may keep you on this weekend. And have a blessed day. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. God bless.